My name's Hannah, and this happened 2 years ago, just after I turned 24. I just moved into a shared apartment above a laundromat in an old brick building on Hennepin Avenue. The place was cheap, even by city standards, and the listing called it quirky. I guess that's what you call exposed pipes, sagging floorboards, and a constant background track of industrial dryers churning socks into insomnia. At first, the noise bothered me. It wasn't just the hum. It was the sudden clunks and hollow thuds that echoed up through the vents like distant footsteps or dull knocks on a hollow wall. But over time, I got used to it, or at least learned how to sleep through the worst of it. It was a Tuesday night, late enough that the bars had started to thin out, but not so late that the streets were entirely empty. My shift at the bookstore had just ended, and I was walking home under flickering street lamps, hugging my coat tighter around me. My legs ached from standing all day, my palms smelled faintly of espresso grounds and old paper, and my stomach was howling. The little in-store cafe always left me half-starved by the end of a shift, nothing but half-eaten pastries and burnt drip coffee for sustenance. Just down the block was a 24-hour diner I passed all the time but never gave much thought to. One of those oddball fusion joints with retro chrome trim and a buzzing neon sign in pink and aqua that read, "The Waitlist." The kind of place you'd see on Instagram, half ironically. I hadn't planned on stopping, but something about the quiet hum of the sign and the promise of greasy food and hot coffee pulled me in. The moment I walked in, I regretted it. Not because it was dirty or crowded, but because of the way it felt. Heavy. Still. Like the air was thicker inside. I'd expected it to be empty, maybe one or two late-night regulars hunched in booths nursing watery coffee. But there were people. Just enough to fill the silence. 3 guys in varsity jackets whispering over milkshakes near the window. A young couple with matching tattoos sharing a plate of congealing waffles. And at the very back, a woman sitting completely alone. She stared straight ahead like she was watching something I couldn't see. Her hands were folded neatly on the table in front of her, and she didn't blink. Not even once while I stood there, taking it all in. The air smelled like fryer grease and something medicinal. Bleach, maybe, or ammonia. The music was either off or turned down so low it barely existed, just a faint pulse buried under the buzz of overhead lights. The hostess looked exhausted, maybe 19, maybe younger, with deep shadows under her eyes and a neck tattoo peeking from beneath her uniform collar. Her hair was tucked into a limp bun that sagged like a dying flower. She didn't greet me, just blinked slowly, turned to the seating chart and said, "Just one?" "Yeah," I replied, "just me." She handed me a laminated menu with frayed corners and nodded toward the far end of the diner, where the coldest-looking booth sat directly across from the woman who hadn't moved a muscle. I wanted to ask for a different seat, closer to the door maybe, but I didn't. I don't know why. I just nodded and slid into the booth, trying not to wince as the sticky vinyl clung to my jeans. The hostess walked away without another word. The menu was bizarre. Nothing made sense. Dishes like kimchi chicken and waffles, wasabi pancake tower, and Szechuan maple riblets were printed in odd fonts with even stranger prices. $10.03, $11.97, $14.09. Nothing rounded. Nothing even. Across from me, the woman still hadn't moved. Her posture was ramrod straight, her chin tilted up just slightly as if she were listening for something. But the more I looked at her, the more I realized something was wrong. Her water glass had a thick ring of dust around the rim. Her napkin was yellow the way paper gets after sitting in the sun too long. Her silverware was still neatly wrapped in its paper pouch, untouched. She wasn't waiting for food. She wasn't waiting for anyone. She was just there. And then came the smell. Not strong, not right away, but unmistakable. Damp, moldy, like the inside of a forgotten basement refrigerator. I tried not to gag as I glanced at her again, really looked this time. Her skin was waxy and taut, especially around her jaw. Her lips were slightly parted, but no breath came. Her eyes, which I hadn't realized were open wide, were cloudy, murky, like marbles dunked in milk. I looked away before my imagination filled in the rest. The waitress appeared so suddenly I nearly jumped. She was older than the hostess, maybe mid-30s, with hair that looked like it had been pulled back hours ago and forgotten. Her apron was stained, not just with ketchup, but something darker, rust brown. Her hands shook slightly as she pulled a pen from behind her ear. "Something to drink?" she asked, monotone. "Water's fine," I said, my voice a little too high. "You ready to order?" I didn't want to be there any longer than I had to. I pointed randomly at the menu. The chicken and rice bowl, please." She scribbled it down without looking at me and vanished without another word. When I finally turned back toward the woman across from me, she was gone. Not walking away, not mid-step, gone. The booth was completely empty. No dust-ringed glass, no napkin, no trace. I leaned out of my seat and checked under the table. Nothing, no footprints, no bag, not even the crease in the seat cushion you'd expect if someone had been sitting there. The waitress returned with my water. I looked up quickly. "Hey," I said, "the woman who was just across from me, did she leave?" She followed my gaze to the booth and frowned. "No one sat there all night." I felt my stomach knot. "No, I swear, she was right there. She looked really pale, and I think..." The waitress cut me off with a sharp shake of her head. "You're mistaken," she said flatly. "Food'll be out in a bit," and she walked away. When the chicken and rice bowl arrived, I couldn't eat it. The chicken was gray, like actually gray. No sear marks, no caramelized edges, just lifeless. The rice looked fine, fluffy even, but it didn't smell like anything. Not food, not spice, just warm air. I picked at it half-heartedly while trying not to gag. I was trying to convince myself to take a few bites, chalk it up to exhaustion, anxiety, whatever, when the lights above my booth flickered. Not the whole diner, just the bulbs above me. First one buzzed, then another popped with a sharp hiss. The remaining lights dimmed to an unsettling orange-brown glow. I looked up and noticed all the bulbs above me were mismatched. Some long and fluorescent, some round and yellowed, others cracked and flickering independently. And all of them hummed, a low, irregular hum like static under an old TV set. That's when I stood up. I was done. I dropped a 20 on the table and turned toward the exit. That's when I saw it. The door to the kitchen was swinging open slightly, just enough to see inside. It was pitch dark, no overhead lights, no gleam of stainless steel, no bustling chefs or clanging pans, just shadows, thick, unmoving. Then I saw it. A hand. Resting on the inside edge of the swinging door, just a hand. Not waving, not moving, just holding it open slightly like it was waiting for me to look. The hand was gray. Same as the chicken. I took a step back, then another. None of the other diners looked up, not the guys with the milkshakes who now seemed frozen in mid-sip. Not the couple who were staring straight ahead, mouths half open, eyes unfocused. The hostess, gone. The waitress, gone. I turned, pushed through the door, and ran. Outside, the air hit me like a slap, icy cold and sharp. I spun around to look back. The neon sign was out, not flickering, dead. No buzz, no hum. The windows were black. Not dim, not dark. Black, as if there was nothing inside, as if there had never been anything inside. I didn't go home right away. I walked the long way, around 2 extra blocks, heart hammering the entire time. Every noise, every shadow made me flinch. But when I finally got back to the apartment and shut the door behind me, the noise of the dryers was oddly comforting. Familiar. The next morning, I told my roommate everything. She raised an eyebrow, smirked, and pulled out her phone. "There's no way that place doesn't have reviews," she said, but she couldn't find it. Not on Yelp, not on Google Maps, not even on local food blogs. We walked back down to the block where it had been. I felt sick as we got closer. There was no diner, just a boarded-up building, windows covered in dust, a torn "for lease" sign barely clinging to one corner, no neon sign, no booths, no smell of fryer oil or old onions. The place had clearly been closed for years. I still have the receipt. It's in the back of an old notebook tucked into my sock drawer. There's no restaurant name, just a timestamp, 12:06 a.m., and the total, $11.97. I was on my 3rd overnight shift that week, covering for a coworker who'd come down with something nasty. Probably the flu or worse. I didn't ask. It was the kind of place where people didn't swap many personal details unless they needed a shift covered or a smoke break. That's just how it went. I never liked the graveyard shift. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was thick, unnatural, the kind that made you feel like you were being watched, even if you were alone. The tips were worse, the drunks were louder, and everything. The lighting, the air, the people felt off. Like the world was leaning just a little too far to one side. But I needed the overtime. Rent was past due, my fridge was basically empty, and I couldn't afford to be picky. My name's Emily, by the way. I wait tables at a 24-hour diner off the interstate. Doesn't really matter which one. They all blur together when you're sleep-deprived and running on stale coffee and muscle memory. Greasy spoons with flickering neon signs, chipped mugs, and regulars that don't speak unless it's to order the same thing every time. That night started like any other. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, flickering in that stuttering rhythm that felt more like a threat than a malfunction. The hum got under your skin if you let it. The cook, Ray, had his headphones in. Some classic rock station always turned up too loud as he smacked around a stack of pancakes with the same enthusiasm a boxer brings to a speed bag. Melissa, the only other server scheduled, had called out last minute, probably had better plans. It was just me, running the whole floor. Wasn't too bad. A table of truckers nursing their late-night eggs and black coffee in the far corner, a couple seated by the window, whispering over half-eaten fries and cold sodas, and a kid, college-aged maybe, with tired eyes and a refillable mug who'd been nursing the same coffee for over an hour. I didn't bother him. We get that sometimes. Lost kids, runaways, people trying to stay warm or kill time. As long as they're quiet and not causing trouble, I let them be. It was just after 2 a.m. when the man walked in. The air felt heavier the moment the door opened. Could have been the night chill. Could have been nothing. He stepped inside like he didn't belong to the same world as the rest of us. Tall, pale, maybe mid-40s, but hard to pin down. Dressed neat, dark wool coat, pressed slacks, polished shoes that looked expensive but weathered, like they'd seen better days and better cities. He didn't look lost. He didn't look drunk or high. He didn't look anything really, just focused, intent. He walked in like he had a destination already planned. Not a single glance at me or the other customers. Just walked slowly, deliberately, across the floor and slid into booth 7. Now, booth 7 sits all the way at the back, near the emergency exit no one uses. The door's seal is broken and the wind howls through the crack at night. Even when it's quiet outside, that corner is always freezing. No one ever sits there unless every other table is full. That night, the place was mostly empty. He could have picked anywhere. But he chose the coldest, most forgotten seat in the house. I grabbed a menu and a glass of water, habit, and walked it over. He was sitting straight, hands flat on the table, staring straight ahead like he was watching something just beyond the wall. Up close, I noticed his skin. Pale, sure, but more than that, it looked dull. Like someone had drained all the color out of him. Not sick, just faded. Weathered in a way that didn't make sense. "You need a minute with the menu?" I asked, gently placing the items on the table. Nothing, not even a blink. I tried again. "Kitchen's still open. We've got a good patty melt." Still nothing. I lingered a moment longer, then turned to walk away. That's when I thought I heard it. A whisper, barely audible, like wind across glass. "I'll wait," he said. I paused and leaned in slightly. "For someone?" He nodded once, slow and steady, like it took effort. I didn't ask more. People wait for all kinds of things. Rides, friends, ghosts. I'd learned long ago not to pry too hard, especially with the quiet ones. 20 minutes passed. I refilled the trucker's coffee, cleared the couple's plates they left without finishing their food, said something about not feeling right. I didn't argue. The place did feel off that night. Even Ray noticed. He asked if I wanted a coffee. I said yes. Needed something to shake off the chill crawling up my spine. I glanced back at booth 7. He hadn't moved. Not an inch. No phone, no drink, no fidgeting, just sitting perfectly still, staring ahead like time didn't apply to him. And that's when I noticed something strange. The glass of water I'd brought him? Still full. But now, it looked frosted, like it had come out of a freezer, not the tap. Condensation had frozen on the glass, little crystals catching the flickering light like tiny shards of ice. The diner was cold, but not that cold. I walked over slowly, a knot forming in my gut. "You sure I can't get you anything?" I asked again. This time his eyes moved. They were dark, too dark, and they locked onto mine with such weight that I actually took a step back. He stared at me for a beat too long before speaking. "You should go," he said. My throat dried. "Go?" "He's almost here." There was no emotion in his voice, no urgency, just certainty. I blinked. "Who's he?" His lips parted like he wanted to say something else, but he didn't, just shook his head once. Slowly, deliberately. I stepped away. At that moment, the bell over the diner door jingled again. Sharp. Sudden. I jumped. But it was just a woman in a hoodie asking if the bathrooms were open. I nodded and pointed her that way. Glanced back at booth 7, still there, still watching something I couldn't see. By 3:10, the diner was dead. The truckers were gone. The couple hadn't come back. Even the kid with the coffee slipped out without a word. Just me, Ray, and the man in the booth. Ray poked his head out from the kitchen. "That guy still here?" I nodded. "Won't order, just waiting." Ray raised an eyebrow. "Creepy. Maybe he's homeless?" "His shoes cost more than my rent," I said. Ray shrugged and vanished back into his world of bacon grease and blues rock. I started wiping down tables, anything to stay occupied, but every few minutes my eyes flicked back to booth 7. Still there. Then, just after 3:30, the lights flickered. Not the usual flicker. This was different. The hum of electricity cut out completely. 1 full second of silence. No buzzing, no warmth. The diner felt hollow, like something was holding its breath. Then the lights snapped back on. Harsh. Blinding. Ray shouted something from the kitchen, but I didn't catch it. Because booth 7 was empty. No sound. No door chime. No movement. He was just gone. I stood frozen for a second, then approached slowly. Part of me expected to find him collapsed on the seat or crouched below the table. But the booth was clean. Empty, except for the glass of water. Still frosted. Still untouched. And beside it, a $100 bill folded into a perfect triangle. No note, no receipt, nothing else. I stared at it for a long moment before reaching out, hand trembling just a little. I picked it up and walked to the kitchen. "Ray," I called. "Did you see that guy leave?" Ray turned, wiping his hands on a towel. "What guy?" "The one in booth 7. He squinted. "Booth 7's been empty all night." I stopped cold. "No, I talked to him. I gave him water." Ray shook his head. "You okay? You look pale." I didn't answer, just walked back to the dining room. The booth was still empty. The water was gone. The next night, Melissa was back. I told her everything. She didn't laugh, didn't roll her eyes. She just got real quiet. "Booth 7, she murmured. "That's where the guy killed himself a few years back, right?" I stared. "What?" "Yeah, sat there all night, waiting for someone, never showed. He went into the bathroom and, you know." She mimed a gun with her fingers. "Ray told me, said they found a note in his coat pocket, said he didn't come, left $100, just like you said." I haven't worked an overnight since, and I never seed anyone in booth 7. Not anymore. I'm Talia, and this story isn't one I tell out loud anymore. I used to think I imagined it, that I was just a tired teenager seeing things after too many late nights, but now, years later, I still catch glimpses of it. I still feel the heat, hear the hiss of the hose, and sometimes I still smell the blood. Back then, I was 17, a junior in high school with no real plans and too much time on my hands. My mom knew the owner of a little diner off the highway, a squat, greasy spoon of a place with flickering neon and vinyl booths that stuck to your legs in summer. She said it would be good for me, teach me discipline, keep me out of trouble. The usual mom stuff. The diner wasn't much. 8 booths, 6 counter stools, and a kitchen that barely fit 2 people without elbowing each other in the ribs. But we had our regulars. Truckers with 1,000-yard stares, ER nurses winding down after hellish shifts, and the occasional lost soul from the nearby gas station or dingy motel. It was the kind of place where the jukebox still played scratched Patsy Cline tracks, and no one asked too many questions. At first, I was just a waitress. Wipe down tables, fill coffee, count tips. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid under the table, and I didn't have to deal with high school drama. Then came the Friday night the dishwasher called out. The owner, Ray, poked his head out of the back and shouted, "Talia, ever run a dish pit?" I blinked. No. He tossed me a stained apron anyway. It's easy, scrape, rinse, load. No one ever complains about the dishes. That was the night everything changed. The dish room was tucked behind the kitchen, barely wide enough to turn around in. Steam clung to the tiled walls and condensation dripped constantly from the ceiling. It felt like stepping into a throat. The machine was a squat metal beast older than most of the equipment in the diner. It wheezed and groaned like it hated its job as much as the rest of us did. At first, it wasn't so bad. The first hour passed in a haze of soap suds and muscle memory. Scrape, rinse, load. Hit the button, Wait for the shrieking roar of the cycle. Repeat. My shirt clung to my back from the heat, but at least I didn't have to deal with customers. Then I noticed the forks. We didn't serve anything that required forks that night. Grilled cheese, burgers, pancakes. But a fork kept showing up in the bus tubs. Just one. Every cycle. The same bent tine. I thought it was weird, but chalked it up to someone grabbing the wrong utensil. Next came the mug. It was chipped, the floral kind you see at estate sales or church potlucks. We hadn't used it in months. It was part of an old mismatched set we'd replaced after a health inspector visit. But there it was, right in the middle of a tray, still warm from the cycle, rim crusted with lipstick, the color of dried blood. Then came the ketchup. I hate ketchup. Always have. The smell alone turns my stomach, sour, sickly sweet, metallic. So when I opened a rack to find 5 plates drowned in it, I gagged. Thick red globs pooled in the center of each plate, smeared in deliberate circular patterns. And yet, that night, no one had ordered anything that came with ketchup. I asked Jeremy, the cook, about it. He was in his 30s, mostly kept to himself, always smelled like onions and cigarettes. Did someone clean out the fridge or something? I asked, trying to sound casual. He raised an eyebrow. Nope. Why? Just weird stuff showing up. He shrugged. That machine's possessed, spits out things from years ago. Don't worry about it. Possessed. He said it like a joke, but he didn't laugh. I didn't tell him about the napkin. That one was left beside the sprayer, folded neatly, like someone had taken their time. On it, in thick red marker, was one word, help. I asked the other waitresses if they were messing with me. They laughed, said maybe I dropped it. I hadn't. The second night was worse. It started quiet. Too quiet. No clatter from the counter, no ding of the bell. When I peeked out through the pass-through, I froze. The diner was full. Every booth, every stool. But no one moved. No one talked. No chewing, no sipping, no murmured conversations. They all just sat, facing forward, staring. Jeremy, I whispered, you see this? He barely glanced up from the grill. See what? All the people out there. He looked, frowned. Place is empty. I turned back. Empty. I felt my blood run cold. I told myself I was exhausted, that I hadn't slept right, the heat and steam were getting to me. Then the machine stopped, right in the middle of a cycle. It just stopped. The power light was still on, the motor still hummed, low and steady, but nothing moved. I opened the door. One plate, not one from the diner. It was old, the kind of floral porcelain my grandmother had used, faded red roses circling the edge. In the middle was a raw slab of meat, marbled thick, pink, and wet. A steak knife was stabbed straight through it. I threw the whole thing out. Every part of me screamed that I shouldn't touch it, but I did. I gagged from the smell. It wasn't beef. It smelled wrong. Sour. Human. After that, things escalated. Sprayer hose turned on by itself, soaking me when my back was turned. The temperature in the dish room dropped suddenly, cold enough to see my breath even with steam in the air. One night, the door slammed shut behind me. Locked. No handle on the inside. I pounded and screamed for 5 minutes straight before Jeremy heard me and let me out. I begged Ray to reassign me. I can't do dishes anymore, I told him. He looked confused. What are you talking about? The dish room. I said, I've been doing it the last 2 weeks. He pulled out the schedule. My name wasn't there. Not once. You've been waitressing every shift, he said. No, I looked at the punch clock. I'd been clocking in, but never clocking out. My hours were missing. It was like I hadn't worked at all. I quit that night. Didn't ask for a paycheck. Didn't want one. Jeremy texted me 2 weeks later. Just a picture. It was a rack of dishes. On it sat a napkin. Same red marker. This time, a different word. Stay. I blocked him after that. But it didn't stop. I started dreaming about the place. The dishwasher with its jaws open wide like it was hungry. The bell ringing endlessly. The door slamming shut and never opening again. Then things started showing up in my apartment. A chipped fork I didn't own. A ketchup-smeared plate in the sink I hadn't used. A smell, faint but distinct. Metallic, like coins left in a wet pocket. Like blood. I tried to move, but the dreams followed. Sometimes I hear the bell, the same one they rang when a rack was ready for the dishwasher, crisp, shrill, echoing down an empty hallway. I live with it. What else can I do? Because deep down, I think I know the truth. That diner isn't just a place. It's a trap, a machine. It grinds people down, chews them up, spits them out. Some nights I wonder if I ever really left. If I'm still there, trapped in steam and metal, scraping plates in a room that doesn't exist on any schedule. All I know is this: the dishwasher doesn't forget, and it doesn't forgive. Closing shift. My name's Lucas. I used to work the night shift at a fast food burger joint. Nothing fancy, just one of those 24-hour franchises you find off every freeway exit. It had been around since the 80s, and I swear it hadn't been updated since. The booths were cracked vinyl, the lights buzzed constantly, and the ice machine never worked unless you kicked it. But they paid $15.25 an hour and didn't care that I had no experience. I started during my senior year of high school. It was supposed to be temporary, just something to cover gas and phone bills. The hiring process was basically non-existent. Sign a few papers, watch a dated training video featuring cheesy jazz music and models pretending to fry burgers, and boom, welcome to the team. At first, it was tolerable. Boring, but tolerable. The manager was this overworked woman named Carla who chain smoked behind the dumpster during breaks. Most of the crew were high school kids like me, except for Reggie, this quiet guy in his 40s who always worked grill. Reggie was strange. Didn't talk much, never smiled, but he showed up early, left late, and his burgers were weirdly perfect. Every single one, like machine-made perfect. I got assigned to closing after just 2 weeks, which meant overnight shifts from 11 p.m., 5 a.m. Just me and Reggie. That's when things started to get off. The first thing I noticed was the lobby clock. Every night around 2:13 a.m., it would reset. Not stop, reset. The minute hand would twitch violently, then spin back to midnight before resuming its tick. I mentioned it to Carla. She shrugged, said the clock was old. That's how everything got explained away. Oh, that's just old equipment, or that's just Reggie's way. But the worst part, the drive-through headset. It beeped when a car pulled up, standard stuff. But some nights, it would beep even when the lot was empty. I'd check the camera monitor, no one. Still, the beep came, and when I clicked the mic, there'd be static, then a whisper. You forgot me. At first, I thought it was a prank. Maybe Reggie messing with me, but he was always too busy grilling, back turned, headphones on. Tried unplugging the system. Still happened, even when I wore a different headset. Always at 2:13 a.m. One night, I decided to play along. Who did I forget? I asked. Silence. Then the one who asked for no pickles. I laughed, nervously. I mean, come on, it had to be a joke, right? But then the register dinged. A new order. Number 306, 1 double cheeseburger. No pickles, add blood. I froze. I looked at Reggie. Did you type that? He glanced over. It's back. What? He walked over to the register and canceled the order. Don't acknowledge it, just clear it and keep working. You've seen this before? Every few months. It'll stop if you ignore it. But it didn't. The next night, when I opened the walk-in freezer, there was a tray already prepared. Breakfast items, bacon, eggs, hash browns, stuff we didn't even serve until 5 a.m. Everything was set perfectly on a tray, except it wasn't warm. It was ice cold, and some of the food looked eaten. Not fully, just enough to notice. A bite from the toast, a smear of ketchup on the eggs. Reggie, did you? Nope, he said, not even looking up from the grill. Do we have cameras back here? Don't work in the freezer. I stood there for a second, the cold creeping into my bones. Then I noticed something scratched into the wall near the doorframe, behind a rack of frozen buns. It said, "Still hungry." I stopped eating on shift after that. A few nights later, I saw her. I was cleaning the lobby, doing the usual floor mop and table wipe when I caught movement outside. A figure near the drive-thru. I thought it was a late customer, but when I looked closer, I saw her face. She was pale, skin pulled tight across her bones. Her eyes were completely black, not just the pupils, the whole eye. She wore what looked like an old fast food uniform, red and yellow, faded and stained. Then she mouthed something. I couldn't hear it, but I swear I knew what she said. You forgot me. I blinked and she was gone. I ran to the back. Reggie didn't even flinch, just kept grilling. You saw her? I asked. He said, You're not going to ask who? He flipped a patty. Doesn't matter. You won't be here long enough. I went home that morning and found a burger box on my porch. It had my name written on it. Lucas. Sharpie, black ink, perfectly neat handwriting. Inside was a double cheeseburger, no pickles. I threw it in the trash and locked every door. That day, I tried to quit. Called Carla, told her I was done. She sounded annoyed, but said fine, bring in your badge. When I got to the restaurant that afternoon, the place was empty, closed, not even a sign on the door, just locked tight. The next morning, it was open again like nothing happened. Lights on, drive-through packed. Carla didn't remember talking to me, said she'd never gotten a call. Payroll had no record of my shifts, no hours logged. My employee number had been reassigned to Reggie. Except when I brought it up to him that night, he just looked at me and said, "I told you, you don't quit." I tried again and again. Every time something stopped me. My car wouldn't start. I'd oversleep. One morning I found fryer oil soaked into my bed sheets. No smell, just oil. Cleaned it 3 times, still greasy. The final straw came when I was closing solo for the first time. Reggie had called in, said he needed a break. At 2:13 a.m. the headset beeped. I didn't answer. Then came the knocks. 3 knocks on the drive-through window. I looked. Nothing. Then the lobby door. Knock, knock, knock. I turned off all the lights, locked the office, and hid under the desk. The next morning, Reggie was back, flipping burgers like nothing had happened. "See?" he said. "You're still here." I never officially quit. I just stopped going. Changed my number, moved towns, took a job stocking groceries. A few months later, I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside, 1 Burger Barn receipt, order number 306. No pickles, add blood. I've moved 3 times since. But sometimes, when I pass a fast food joint at night, I swear I see her in the drive-thru. Face pale, eyes black, mouthing the same thing. "You forgot me."